The initial reports after Iran's January 8th missile strike on the al-Assad air base in Iraq were promising, with President Trump and top military officials saying no U.S. service personnel were killed or injured. But this week, after revising the injury count 4 times, the Pentagon said more than 60 people suffered traumatic brain injuries as a result of the attack. While 39 have returned to active duty, such injuries can result in serious and long-term health and mental health issues.
One more, let's go.
Traumatic brain injury, or TBI, has been called the signature injury of U.S. military involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan. TBI can result from concussive forces of explosions, such as mortars or roadside bombs, as well as direct impact injuries from combat or military-related accidents. More than 400,000 military TBI cases have been diagnosed since 2000, with 13% considered moderate to severe. In a 2018 National Institutes of Health study of Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, service members reported physical symptoms like dizziness, headaches, and backaches, as well as cognitive and psychological issues, memory loss, post-traumatic stress, depression, and suicidal thoughts. Dr. Michael Lipton of the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in New York has treated veterans with TBI and extensively researched the condition among service members.
Years ago, certainly in, earlier military conflicts, traumatic brain injuries were, first of all, not widely recognized because at the mild end of the spectrum, concussion and symptoms that were relatively transient were not acknowledged as representing a brain injury. They were thought to simply be some other kind of transient psychological phenomenon. At the same time, the likelihood for, particularly in the setting of combat, for an individual to die as a result of an injury, whether it was the brain injury itself or other body injuries that occurred at the same time, was much higher. So we're very good nowadays at having people survive even severe traumatic brain injury. And we also are recognizing how broad the spectrum of traumatic brain injury is.
In severe cases, traumatic brain injury can increase long-term risk for disorders including Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, or the degenerative brain disease chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Most cases aren't deemed serious early on. 90% of military members with TBI return to active duty. One of those was Captain Lance Royce, a 2004 Purple Heart recipient spotlighted in this U.S. Army video on TBI.
A hot day, en route on a convoy mission in Iraq.
I was disoriented, had trouble walking at first and everything. I was determined to have a moderate to severe concussion. After 3 days, I was released back to my unit and continued the fight.
Royce returned home after 2 more months of combat. Tests before his next deployment revealed scarring on his brain, requiring long-term follow-up. 18 service members injured in January's Iranian missile attack were sent to a military hospital in Germany. President Trump said the injuries didn't appear to be serious.
I heard that they had headaches and a couple of other things, but I would say, and I can report, it is not very serious.
Those remarks didn't sit well with William Schmitz, the national commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. He called for an apology from the president for, quote, his misguided remarks. That's because TBI is regarded with increasing seriousness by the military and veterans groups advocating for its detection and treatment. Naval Captain Thomas Johnson is the director of the Intrepid Spirit Concussion Recovery Center at Camp Lejeune. He testified at a 2017 House Armed Services Committee hearing about unnoticed symptoms of traumatic brain injuries and his insistence on medical follow-up.
Historically, if a service member had a problem, they may or may not go to medical. Now it is an event-driven process. If you are in the proximity of a blast, you are to go to medical, regardless of your symptoms.